There's a couple billion people in the world, and a million other places we could be, but you're here with me. Take a moment just to take it in. There's every high and every low led to this. I'm just so glad you exist.
Do you get to choose when your appointments are? So this one's a bit of a doozy. No, technically no, you don't get to choose when your appointments are, especially when you've actually started. So for me, I've kind of been told where to go and when to go, if I'm honest. So I did an anaesthetic review a couple of days before Christmas, because I was told if I didn't do that, it would be done way after Christmas, and that, you know, good luck. However, like, so you kind of get told, right, this is the appointment slot we have, and I'm sure, like, you could say, look, I can't do this day, you're gonna have to choose another day, and they do it. But I know once you've actually started, and again, I will revisit these questions because I'm at a standpoint where I've only just ordered the donor, you know, so I cannot answer 100% for how it is when you're kind of in that part of the journey. But I do know when it comes to scans and stuff, once you've started your medication, no, you do get checked quite regularly. Same with your bloods, and then with your your egg retrieval, you do have a set time because you've had a trigger injection. You can't say, oh, I can't do that day, I'm gonna have to do a different day. You have to kind of move things around, and you know, this has happened. My poor mum, she works nights, and she's very much had to, like, the next day go to the appointment, like, because you can't really change anything. So what I will say is, if you have a 9-to-5 job and you're going through this, it's doable, but once you start the process, you really need to think, like, how am I going to juggle the two? Because, like I said, when it comes to, like, the egg retrieval, you know, you are on a set day. And no, you're not told this day in advance. I think that's just, like, the thing with IVF. You go around one corner and then there's another split road. Can you bring in a loved one when you don't have a partner? So obviously this varies clinic to clinic, country to country, etc. Especially with, like, COVID, etc. Keep that in mind. So in my experience, so I've brought my mum to every appointment. My grandparents have came too, but, like, they've sat in a car, so they've not actually been in the appointments. They have been in the car park. But yeah, so my mum has come into both my baselines and my blood. However, she was not allowed to come in for my anaesthetic review. It was through to near where they have the theatre, so it's kind of the recovery area, so they don't let people through, or they at least didn't let my mum through. I don't know if they let your partner through, who knows. But yes, you can bring in, as far as I know, as far as my experience has gone, you can bring in a loved one. Are there any hidden costs in IVF? Well, there's loads of hidden costs in IVF. It constantly changes, like I said. Do not be set on one price, because it's not going to be that, I can promise you. In fact, if you write down the price that you was originally told, or the price that you originally saw on the website, to the price that you end up paying in the end as a total, it will be completely different, I promise that. So you have to take into account, like, different things, like even the vitamins, that's an added cost. You know, the pomegranate juice that is £4 and disgusting is an added cost. The petrol to it, added cost. You know, everything adds up. Everything. And I think, again, the thing you have to just allow yourself to do is not fixate on numbers, because if you go, right, I only need £6,000, you just allow £6,000, yeah, that's not happening. So I think my total was nearly 8,000. Now I have got embryo freezing in there too, and obviously that adds to my costs. I also had to pay for an anaesthetic review. Not everyone has to do that. If you have chronic illness, no doubt you will have to. And like I said, my clinic is not where I live. My clinic is 40 minutes, and it's about £30 a trip. So, you know, a lot of appointments with the clinic are done online now, or via the phone. So it's done via Zoom, or it's done via a phone call. It's really only the scans I've gone in for and the bloods. My consultant appointment was not face-to-face, none of them, and I've had 3. So keep that in mind. Like, the best thing for you to do is kind of jot it down. If you're doing a loan thing like me, it does help a lot, like a lot. It takes off a little bit of that pressure. But yeah, another thing, like, I'll touch on, even with the loan, like, so the way my clinic does it is you have the option of loan. Normally, you would pay a deposit for a loan and then you would get the money. No, that has not happened for me at all. I got told a little way into the journey that I had to pay for the donor. I had to pay for the anaesthetic review, a repeat baseline, because I'd already paid for 1 baseline, so technically I paid for 2, even though I got 1 for free because my clinic kept fucking up. Bloods, which I also managed to get for free because they kept fucking up, but keep this in mind that you will have to pay for it. And then the deposit, so there's 6 things. So it's nearly £4,000 I've had to find as a start point before I can get the loan. Now, the money for the donor, etc., comes off the total. It doesn't for me, because I ended up using a different bank to what my clinic uses. So as much as it comes off the total, my donor was double what they quoted me. Lucky me. So yeah, keep that in mind. Like, even with the loan option, you're gonna need some money to begin with, and then different things happen, you know, scans get added and stuff like that, and they cannot be added to the loan. At least in my case, they can't be added to the loan. And then there's different medications that they might add. None of this is added to the loan. This is something you'd have to pay out of pocket. So kind of have an idea. Like, this is the stressful bit. I mean, I'm getting a headache now because I'm thinking, fuck, there's a lot to pay for. There is a lot to pay for. It is something that you need to think about, but not hyperfixate. When do you find out you're pregnant? So this one's kind of for, like, future things. I mean, I got my brother to help me with all these questions, and kind of asked him, like, what would you want to know? You find out if and when you're pregnant after your embryo transfer. So after your embryo transfer, you are something called PUPO, which is PUPO, and it means pregnant until proven otherwise. Now, you are technically pregnant when you leave that appointment. However, some women do a pregnancy test at 8 days post-transfer. Some people wait for 2 weeks, and some people just straight up say no, and they wait for their bloods. Now, for me personally, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I obviously have never done a pregnancy test, and I do have flow, which is my suprapubic catheter. Most people would do a pregnancy test with their first morning wee. I have a free drain catheter, which means it drains constantly. There is no pee that constantly sits in my bladder at all. So I honestly do not know how, like, pregnancy tests and stuff is going to go. I mean, that's a whole new journey for me. And again, like, I will take you guys on it and kind of explain it, because I'm sure there's loads of catheter users that are thinking the same. Like, how the fuck does that work? But yeah, So it's a personal choice, I would say, on when you want to start testing, if you want to start testing. So you technically will find out anything from 8 to 9 days after your transfer, even though you are labelled pupo, pregnant until proven otherwise, after your transfer. So that's when you do your pregnancy test. You then will have your blood test to see if the numbers are doubling around 2 weeks. Now, the way my clinic does it is after all that's fine, you will have a first scan, which is 7 to 8 weeks after your transfer. So you kind of will know if you're pregnant when you decide to do your pregnancy test. However, you only know if it's kind of not a chemical pregnancy, I think that's the only way to phrase it, after your numbers start doubling. And again, like, you know, we all kind of have our own opinion on when you're classed as pregnant, because obviously with IVF you know everything a lot sooner than you would, so it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time to know that amount of information that soon, because obviously there's more to think about. There's more to be grateful for, but there's also more to think about. So yeah, I guess it's kind of up to you to decide when you find out you're pregnant. How do you know IVF is for you? Now, whether you're doing IVF with a partner or you're doing IVF by yourself, I think I can't answer this question for you. It's that simple. Like, I can't say, you know what, it's for you, or nah, it's not for you at all. I don't think anyone can answer that. Not your family, nor your friends. Like, you have to answer that. It's very stressful. There is so much to it. There is a financial burden with it. I try not to focus too much on the money, because like at the end of the day, meh, I'm crazy. But yeah, I think the thing to ask yourself is, do you want it? Like, do you want it? You know, being a parent is a massive thing. This isn't a trend. This isn't a pair of shoes. This isn't the latest bag. Like, this is a human being that you're hopefully creating. Like, this is something hopefully you'll have your entire life. And God willing that it goes right for you, you know, and you have embryos that are frozen as well. Like, this is potentially your future children. It's not even just one child, it's children. It's a massive thing to think about. And you know, stuff like having your eggs or your embryos frozen, you have to think, is there like a cost each year or every couple of years? So mine renews after 2 years. I have to pay another fee, which I do believe is £300 and something. And then they're frozen, I do believe, for 2 more years. But you have to keep all of that in mind. But I think my main question is, one, what do you lose from inquiring? Whether you're with your partner or not, like, what do you both lose from inquiring? Nothing. You lose a couple of quid, but, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you're not losing anything. And if you're doing this by yourself and you're kind of working out, like, is the single mother by choice route for you, there's no way you can know until you start it. I'll be honest, you kind of wake up one day and you're like, yep, I've got this, fuck this, I'm gonna cry during it, I'm gonna be like depresso espresso, and I'm gonna be struggling a little bit, I'll be honest, with the thought that my idyllic family isn't what it's meant to be. However, you know, you just wake up and you just know. I'll be honest, I know that's not easy, and I know that's not helpful necessarily when you're just starting this, because you want me to give you the magic answer. I don't have one. I honestly don't have a magic answer. You kind of just decide, or it decides for you. So like for me, my MH is lower than it should be. My follicle count is lower than it should be. I haven't met anyone. I can't see myself meeting anyone anytime soon. I came out of a nearly 7-year relationship with a man that I was madly in love with. You don't just go in with someone else, you know? My health isn't necessarily the most reliable. In 5 years' time, I will have an endometriostomy, and there is potential complications when it comes to fertility and stuff like that. All these different factors kind of decided it for me, but the main one was I want to be a mum. I've always wanted to be a mum. I have got a great support system, and yeah, I can do it. I just woke up and I knew I could do it. It's that simple. So those were 10 questions on IVF. There's probably 1,000 more. If you have any, you're more than welcome to leave them below. I will more than likely do another Q&A. I will try and do a live as well, if people could put in the comments where you're from, so I can kind of get an idea what sort of times I should do it, because it would more than likely be UK evening, or late in the night for UK, so we can kind of get other people from around the world if anyone wants to tune in. And you can kind of ask me them live, so be ready to hear me ramble. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, even if 1 out of the 10 was helpful for you. Yeah, as always, think awareness, not attention.